on the line with us is the man we affectionately call Coach Sal, and here he is with his pregame salutations. John Sullivan, it's always great to have you, partner.
Hey, thank you, Bubba and Andy. You guys talked about it. You got to stay focused and you got to be positive in this game. But I also think the offense needs to dial it back a little, run the ball and play field position. Guys, after the BC game, we pointed to the very positive changes that were made on the offense, the different formations, the max protections, the run game, the quick release. And all of that, based on all of that, you'd conclude that the offense is getting better. But I really don't think overloading a young quarterback, in my opinion, is the way to go. And I point to this as to make my case. In the win over BC, Butler had 21 carries. Versus Toronto, he had 11. Powell versus BC passed 23 times. Versus Toronto, he passed 42 times. I really think that they need to get back into that run game and limit the passing game. I like the idea of passing 7 times last week over 20 yards. But at the same time, Bubba, you mentioned Powell and the time of possession and yardage. But you got to get points. You got to get in the end zone, and you can't go down 17 points in the first quarter.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say is it's a lot easier to control the flow of the game and play that field position battle and commit to the run when you are not trailing by double digits. So getting out to an early start is critical. But, what is going on with this team this year? I mean, the last 4 games, they haven't had a point in the first quarter. It's 19 points all season in 11 games in the first quarter.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
It really is, Andy, and you got to look at it. They're doing well in the fourth quarter. If they could get the first quarter going and continue to do well in the fourth quarter, things would turn around for them.
Well, looking at the game against the Red Blacks in their last contest, Butler actually only had 6 rushing attempts for 12 yards. And the Red Blacks do have a really stingy run defense. And if anyone remembers, that was the game that Bully Van Mitchell threw 5 interceptions.
Yeah.
But
I remember it, yes.
Yeah. But still, only giving up 12 points on the scoreboard and coming out with the victory. I guess what I'm trying to say is you probably don't want to try to repeat that strategy.
No, and really, a lot is going to depend upon the defense. As you know, this will be a very physical game. And I think the Cats have to be extremely mentally tough in this ball game because of the rest period for the Red Blacks and the quick turnaround for the Cats. It's going to be physical, and I really think a lot of it will depend upon our offensive tackles versus their defensive ends. Powell's been sacked 9 times in the last 2 games. And now with Figueroa and Murray at the tackle spots, I hope that gets better in this game and gives him an opportunity to get the ball out of his hands and maybe get some of those 20-yard throws.
I'm laughing about the 5 interceptions, but I can't also, balance it with the fact that Bo threw for 353 in that game and put up a whole lot of first downs.
Yeah, and then look at Powell in the last game. That was a career high for him, 296 with 3 touchdowns. So he did his part in that game. I really think a lot of it will depend upon how well the defense does early in the ball game, not allowing the Red Blacks to get an advantage.
Coach, if you're looking at the Red Blacks now and how really desperate they are to get this victory, I wouldn't be surprised to see them trying to pull out the stops. They're not going to go down without a fight. So I don't know if that means maybe some trick plays or some fakes on special teams plays. If you were the coach of the Red Blacks team, would you be planning for some of this trickery or deceptive play calling?
Yes, absolutely. Depending upon how the game is going, if they get an early lead, they can be less exciting in their play. But if the things are not going their way or it's even, then I think you got to watch every time they punt the ball. You've got to be aware of the onside player going down the field. Every time they punt the ball, you got to be aware of the possible fake. And if they're in Ticat territory, let's say the 40-yard line, and they bring Ward in for a field goal, you've got to worry about a fake in that area too. So all things considered, you know, they're gonna do what they have to do to win this football game.
Well, folks, you are listening to Tiger Cats pregame presented by Greenworks. Greenworks Tools is kicking off all your lawn care season with all your outdoor power and all the power that you do need. Tackle any chores like the pros by visiting us at greenworkstools.com.
Coach, we've in the last 3 games, we've all been happy to see the emergence of Tim White. He's caught 88% of his targets. He's 22 catches out of 25 targets in the last 3 games for 268 yards, 9 second down conversions. How important is he to feed him early and often in this game?
Well, I think you've got to go to White, obviously, because he's your main man right now. But at the same time, Godwin has had a good run. He got 2 touchdowns in the last ball game. And McAllister is so good in the open field. You got to find a way to get the ball to him also. So, you know, all things considered, White could be a game breaker in there. But at the same time, the real drudgery type work could be done by Godwin over the middle and by Smith on the outside. Don't forget about Smith. He's also contributed well in the last few ball games.
Yeah, good things always seem to happen when they throw the ball to Keandre. So I hope he continues to get more involved. And we have a new face in the receiving corps, Omar Bayless, 6'1", 210, first year out of Maryland. We saw a lot of great things in the preseason and in training camp, but haven't really saw any real action yet in this league at receiver anyways. I know he was playing in that first game in Winnipeg and got a touchdown, but on the block punt. But I'm really excited to see him go too, and he's stepping in for Duke Williams. So another bigger body and smooth route runner. He's got a lot of speed. It'll be great to have him kind of in the mix as well and really spread the ball around to all these guys.
Yeah, Andy, what you're talking about is the fact that we have a good receiving corps. So I go back to my first comment. The tackles Figueroa and Murray have got to be able to handle Maldwin and Carter on the outside, not allow them to get quick pressure on the quarterback, give Powell time to make those throws, allow the receivers the opportunity to run their routes, maybe some double moves on the outside in this ball game, and get some real big plays.
Coach, what do you like about Murray?
I like his size. I think he's a big human being, and he's got good long arms, and he moves his feet well. Going back to 21, I think was the last time he was here. If he's in good shape, which I believe he says he is, he should be able to handle his job on the outside, and he's a good run blocker, so he can get off that ball and move that defensive end.
Coach, of course, there's always an emphasis on ball security, but after playing a game 4 days ago, and then you get deep into this game, how do you kind of reiterate that importance and that extra focus to your players, just to dial it in for turnovers, but also for just discipline and focusing in the moment, and not letting your physical and mental fatigue come into play?
Yeah, some time ago, one of the great NFL coaches, Lombardi, said that fatigue will make a coward out of anyone. So, you've got to be mentally tough enough that you don't allow that to creep into your play tonight. And you talk about the football, you've got to be able to marry yourself to that ball. No matter if you're a receiver or if you're a running back or a quarterback, that ball is the most important thing you have, and you've got to secure it no matter what. I would rather the guy go down short of a first down and hang on to the ball than to struggle to try to get that extra half yard and lose the football.
Yeah, you can't give up anything tonight. You got to play discipline and sound ball. Going up against Dustin Crum, guy who has speed, elusive, escapability, can also throw the ball. Do you expect a similar defensive approach as the last game against Ottawa, where the Ticats, they did give up some rushing yards to him, but I think overall they did a really good job on him, and of course they had those season-high 7 sacks in that game. So I would think it would be a similar type of approach, but what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you've got to spy on him, especially when he gets into situations where it's second down and 9, 10, 11 yards, somewhere in there. You go to that dime package, bring in the extra linebacker, and let your defensive linemen control themselves up front so they're in their rush lanes and they don't give them that opportunity to escape. And then the spy guy to just follow him no matter where he goes, especially when it gets to the fourth quarter where he's almost beat us twice.
Coach, just looking at the big aspect of this, and Andy and I talked about this, and he kind of gave his feelings as a player. And the CFL can't fine us, so say whatever you want to say. I mean, how difficult is this as a coach to plan for another team 5 days after maybe arguably your big granddaddy game in the Labor Day Classic? 5 days later, you're on the road playing another team in your division.
Well, that's where I go back to the idea that I think you got to dial things back on the offense, make it a little simpler, and be able to run the football. It's difficult enough to go on a 7-day swing with another team, and to do it with a one practice. You can't add a whole lot of stuff in. You basically have some things that you've probably worked on over the weeks prior to this game that haven't been seen yet. Those could come into play, but it's very difficult to go, 1 day of rest, 1 day of practice, 1 day of travel, and play a game. So, it all comes down to your mental toughness, I think, and the coaches have to really rely on their players and really emphasize to the players, don't beat yourself. Play one play at a time in this game.
90 seconds.
Coach, we'll be heading into the last third of the season after tonight's matchup. Just as an overall, an overview, what is something you would like to see an emphasis to make a positive change with this team for the rest of the year?
Let's score in the first quarter. Let's put some points on the board. Let's go out with a game plan in the first quarter. And I always like the idea of where you had a 10-play game plan to start the ball game, and you had a 10-play game plan to start the third quarter, and go with it. Don't just go out there and change your game plan for any reason whatsoever. Stick with it. Your players will respect you for it.
Coach, so if you had a script of 10 plays to start the game, would you give those plays to Taylor Powell last night or even the day before, the practice day before that?
The practice before, we always gave it to our quarterback. The practice before we, went on the field for the game. That way he had time to digest the whole thing.
I'm just seeing Dylan Wynn, and he has had his defensive players, his defensive linemen, circled around him. And, boy, he is all fired up getting those guys ready. So I think you're going to see a real emotional Tiger Cats team. He is John Salavanis, and those were his pregame salutations. Coach Sal always offering Steeltown football fans the facts, and we appreciate you joining us.
Well, thank you, Bubba and Andy, and have a good game.
Enjoy the contest.